Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're heading to the Godavari River,
Oh, wow.
or it's also called the Gautami Ganga in the Brahma Purana, which is the text we're going to be looking at today.
Okay.
And we are going to be looking at 3 sacred sites
Okay, cool.
all along this river, and each of them is connected to some really big names in Hindu mythology, and they offer unique benefits to people who visit.
Wow. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I think it'll be really interesting to look at. So what comes to mind when you hear like sacred site, especially connected to ancient stories,
I think it's really interesting how over time these places get imbued with meaning,
right?
almost like they physically manifest the belief and tradition.
Yeah, like a physical representation of something more.
Yeah, and they offer a tangible connection to the past,
Right,
like inviting us to engage with these stories that have resonated, for centuries.
right. And so today we're going to look at 3 specific places along this Godavari River and kind of uncover how they earned their names and what boons they offer.
Cool.
So first up, we have Palasta Tirtha,
Okay.
which is the place of Pulastya.
Uh-huh.
So right away, we know we're dealing with the sage Pulastya, who is the grandfather of Kubera,
The god of wealth.
the god of wealth. Yes. And it's actually through Kubera's story that this place gains its significance because he was driven out of Lanka by his half-brother Ravana.
Right, and Ravana, of course, from the
Or
Ramayana.
the Ramayana. Exactly.
I mean, it's just interesting how even in mythology we see like these really human conflicts play out.
Right.
Like sibling rivalry power struggles.
Yeah.
They're not just limited to us mortals.
Yeah, it's a reminder that these stories, as fantastical as they are, they reflect a lot of like just human experience.
Yep.
So Kubera, banished from his kingdom, seeks refuge with his grandfather.
Right, goes back to family.
He goes back to family. It's really interesting how even for a god, family is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that theme of like seeking solace and support within family, it resonates throughout all these narratives. But it's what Kubera does next that really transforms this location. He offers this prayer to Shiva on the banks of the Godavari. And it's not just a simple, please help me prayer.
Right.
It's more like this declaration of Shiva's power.
Right.
Using all these examples like Ganesha being born from Parvati's bath clay or Kamadeva being both destroyed and revived by Shiva.
I'm struck by how Kubera, in this moment of vulnerability, is choosing to highlight Shiva's strength and not his own like misfortune.
Right.
It makes me think about like the power of recognizing something bigger than yourself when you're going through something tough.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Like it's not about like diminishing his own struggles, but putting them in the context of this greater cosmic order.
Right.
And it seems like that recognition is kind of key to the boon that Shiva grants him.
And what a boon.
Right.
Shiva merges Kubera's past, present, and future wealth,
Yeah.
making any wealth that he needs instantly available.
Like ultimate financial security.
Yeah.
But then it goes a step further. Anything that Kubera intends to give away is considered already given.
Wow.
So it's not even just about personal wealth. It's like boundless generosity.
Yeah, it's interesting how this concept of wealth goes beyond just material possessions, and it becomes this abundance that's tied to giving.
Right.
So this place becomes known as Palasta Tirtha, Dana Tirtha, which means wealth place, and Vaisarvasa Tirtha, which kind of all suggests that rituals performed there will give immense blessings.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about the different layers of meaning for this site?
Well, I think it's the intertwining of the material and spiritual abundance.
Yeah.
Like the story acknowledges the very human desire for wealth and security,
Right.
but then elevates it by connecting it to generosity and selfless giving.
Right. Like true wealth isn't about how much you have, but it's about how much you can give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It suggests that true wealth might be the ability to detach from those material possessions
Right.
and embrace a more expansive sense of abundance.
Yeah. That's definitely something I think a lot of people could benefit from thinking about.
For sure.
But let's move on to our next stop along the Godavari, which honestly has me a bit puzzled. It's called Agni Tirtha,
Okay.
the place of fire.
Place of fire.
Yeah, fire in a river.
Yeah. That does seem like a bit of an odd combination.
It seems like an odd combination.
Cool.
But the story behind it reveals a surprising connection. It starts with Agni's brother Jatavedas, who was responsible for carrying offerings to the gods,
Okay.
but he was killed by this demon Madhu.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that disrupts the flow of offerings and potentially throws the cosmos out of balance.
Right, because if the gods aren't getting their offerings, they can't do their jobs.
Right,
The whole thing falls apart.
right. So this act of violence has far-reaching consequences. What does Agni do in response to all this?
Well, he retreats into the Godavari River.
Into the river.
Yeah. And you might think, why a river?
But
But remember, fire is Agni's essence.
right.
So without fire, life as we know it would cease to exist. So his retreat wasn't just him mourning. It was the threat to the whole cosmos.
So the gods must have been panicking. What did they do?
Well, they recognized how bad the situation was. And they pleaded with him to come back to his duties.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a demand. It was like this heartfelt recognition of how important fire is. They offered him greater power protection and the first share of all offerings.
Wow. So a tragedy leads to this renegotiation of like power dynamics, this
Mhm.
recognition of how important fire is. What happens to Agni after this compromise?
Well, he agrees to continue doing his duties. He comes back from the river,
Okay.
but it's not just like everything goes back to normal. Jatavedas and Agni merge into one entity
Oh, wow.
with multiple names.
So he's kind of absorbing his brother.
Right. It symbolizes resilience and adaptation in the face of loss.
Wow. So this spot where he submerged himself in grief and reemerged with a new purpose becomes Agni Tirtha. What makes this site special besides just his story?
It's believed that 700 other sacred sites reside within Agni Tirtha. And performing rituals there grants you the benefits of the Ashvamedha,
Which is?
the horse sacrifice ritual.
Okay, that's a lot of spiritual weight in one location.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how a place born from grief can transform into this source of power and renewal.
Yeah.
But our journey along the Godavari isn't over yet. There's one more site, and it offers a very different type of resolution, one I think a lot of people can relate to even today.
Okay.
It's called Rinamachana Tirtha,
Rinamachana Tirtha,
the debt-releasing place.
debt releasing place.
And it's a story that looks at the anxieties of societal expectations and the burden of debt,
Okay.
both literal and metaphorical.
Oh, you got me curious. Tell me more about this Rinamachana Tirtha.
Okay, so this site, its story revolves around Kakshivan and his two sons.
Oh,
They're both hesitant to marry because they have this deep fear of debt and potentially breaking social norms.
okay.
To understand this, we have to consider the three debts that every Hindu was expected to repay.
Okay, break it down for me.
So you have debt to the gods, which is repaid through rituals and offerings.
Right.
Debt to the sages, which is repaid through study and transmission of knowledge.
Right.
And then debt to the ancestors, which is repaid by having children and continuing that family lineage.
Gotcha.
And these weren't just financial obligations, they were spiritual and societal duties that really weighed on people.
Yeah, so Kakshavan's sons were grappling with all that pressure
Yeah.
to uphold these debts and anxieties that I think we can relate to today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe we don't call it debt to the gods, but that expectation to succeed, to build a family, to leave a positive mark on the world, it's still there.
Right.
So faced with all these anxieties, their predicament leads to intervention by their ancestors, the Pitters.
Ancestral intervention.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So what role do they play?
The Pitters really emphasize the influence of family even after death,
Okay.
and they advise the sons to bathe in the Godavari River. And they assure them that doing this will absolve them of their debts and resolve their dilemma.
So just a dip in the river to erase all your debt.
Right. It sounds almost too simple.
It does.
Did it actually work?
Well, for the eldest son, Prithvisrava, it did.
Okay.
After he bathed in the river, he was freed from all three debts.
Wow.
And then he was free to get married and fulfill all his societal obligations without that fear or hesitation.
So this act of ritual cleansing became a turning point,
Right.
not just for Prithvisrava, but for the location.
Right. This event transforms the site into Rinamachana Tirtha,
The debt-releasing place.
a place where anyone burdened by debt, whether it's financial or karmic, can seek release and a fresh start.
It's a powerful concept, this idea that you can wash away burdens and emerge renewed.
Mhm.
It really speaks to the human desire for liberation from material debts and just the weight of past mistakes.
And it really underscores the enduring power of these sacred sites along the Godavari River.
Right.
Each location, steeped in mythology and belief, offers a different kind of transformation, a unique pathway to navigate the complexity of human experience.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will continue our exploration of these sites.
Sounds good.
Mm.
You know, it's interesting how each of these sites that we've talked about along this river,
Mm-hmm.
they seem to offer like a different type of resolution or transformation.
Yeah.
Palasta Tirtha,
Mm-hmm.
with all the abundance and the generosity Agni Tirtha, with resilience and renewal, and now Rinpoche dealing with these anxieties that so many people still feel today.
Right. It's like a roadmap for navigating life's challenges.
Yeah.
So, if you're struggling with money or you feel trapped,
Right.
there's a site that speaks to that if
Right.
you're facing grief and loss.
Uh-huh.
There's another one that offers solace and a way forward.
Right. And that's the beauty of mythology, isn't it?
Yeah.
It gives us that framework to understand the human condition and offers guidance that transcends time and culture.
Right.
These stories might be from Hindu tradition, but those themes are universal.
Right, exactly. So whether you're a devout Hindu or just someone who likes mythology and ancient wisdom, there's something here for everyone. And it makes me think about pilgrimage.
Oh, yeah. What comes to mind when you think about pilgrimage?
Well, it's not just about going to a physical location.
Right.
It's about the journey, the intention behind it, the seeking of something greater than yourself. I wonder, do you think these sites along the Godavari would have been hard to get to?
Oh, yeah, especially in ancient times. I mean, the Godavari is the second longest river in India, over 900 miles.
Wow.
Imagine traveling along its banks, especially back then. It would take a lot of dedication.
Right, and perseverance.
Yeah, for sure.
It adds another layer of meaning, doesn't it? Like, it wasn't just about showing up. It was the effort, the sacrifice, the willingness to even embark on that journey, both physically and spiritually.
Yeah, absolutely. The journey itself becomes a metaphor for all the challenges and triumphs we face in our own lives.
Right.
And just as those who made these pilgrimages had to choose their path, we face choices too. If you could visit one of these sites along the Godavari, which one would you choose and why?
That is a thought-provoking question. It's
Right.
like you're doing this cosmic self-assessment. Like, which site speaks most to my needs or aspirations right now?
Right.
Would I go to Palastatirtha with all that potential abundance and generosity, or Agni Tirtha with those themes of resilience and overcoming adversity? Or Rinpoche Tirtha, the place where you can be free from debt,
Right?
have a fresh start.
Yeah, each site offers a unique perspective, like a different lens to view your own life through.
Right.
It's fascinating to think about what draws us to a particular site,
Right.
what speaks to our deepest desires or even anxieties.
It makes me think about how these stories pass down for generations, like this collective wisdom.
Right.
They offer not just entertainment, but guidance, solace, a framework for understanding just the human experience.
And that's what makes mythology so enduring, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to something timeless within us, reminding us that while the world might change the questions and challenges we face, they stay pretty much the same.
Exactly. The anxieties of Kakshavan's sons with those societal expectations.
Right.
Kubera wanting to belong and feel safe after being banished. Agni's grief and the threat of his absence. Like, these are emotions and challenges that go beyond time and cultural boundaries.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not alone in those struggles.
Right.
Those stories give us a shared language to talk about the complex human experience.
Yeah.
And maybe within these narratives, we can find not just solace, but inspiration for our own journeys.
Well said. It's been really insightful to explore these 3 sacred sites along the Godavari.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what they have to offer.
Oh, for sure. The Brahma Purana and the Godavari River are full of stories and symbolism. There's so much more to discover and explore, both in those ancient texts and within ourselves.
Right.
I really encourage our listeners to go deeper into these narratives and see what resonates most with their own experiences.
Absolutely. What insights or questions will you be taking away from this deep dive? It's been a fascinating journey exploring not just the physical locations, but the wisdom in these ancient tales.
For me, it's the reminder that these stories, they're not just relics of the past, but living sources of wisdom that can guide us today.
Right.
Each site offers a different type of transformation.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about what kind of change you want in your own life.
It's like a call to action, not just to listen to these stories, but engage with them.
Right.
Ask yourself, what would I seek at Palastatirtha? How would I deal with the grief and renewal of Agni Tirtha? What debts would I release at Rinpoche Tirtha?
Right. And maybe by engaging with these questions, we can get a deeper understanding, not just of these traditions, right, but of ourselves and our place in this grand tapestry of human experience.
It's been a truly enriching experience.
Yeah.
And I hope you, our listener, have felt that too. Until next time, Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries that surround us. It's really amazing how much these stories still resonate with us today.
Yeah.
We've traveled along the Godavari looking at all these sacred sites,
Yeah.
but it feels like we've also made this inner journey
Right.
exploring all these different sides of what it means to be human.
Yeah, that's the power of these stories. They offer this bridge between the outer and the inner world.
Yeah.
They help us connect to something bigger.
Right. And what's interesting to me is that these sites don't offer just one type of transformation.
Yeah.
They offer this whole range
Mhm.
from the abundance of Palasta Tirtha to the resilience of Agni Tirtha and then the liberation of Rinamakana Tirtha.
Right.
It feels like these places have this potential that we can tap into.
Yeah, it's almost like a choose your own adventure for your soul.
Yeah.
Each one has a different path, a different lesson to be learned, a different side of ourselves to develop.
Makes you wonder if these sites were real places you could go today.
Right.
What would a pilgrimage look like now?
Yeah.
Would people still go to the Godavari River looking for these boons?
I think the desire for transformation, for connection,
Yeah.
for something beyond the ordinary,
Right.
it's as strong today as it was back then.
Yeah.
Maybe the way people go on pilgrimages has changed,
Right.
but that deep down desire is still there.
So instead of physical journeys,
Mm-hmm.
maybe people are making inner pilgrimages,
Right.
trying to find that same transformation within themselves.
Yeah.
Could we be generous, like at Palasta Tirtha, just in our everyday lives? Could
Yeah.
we face our problems with the resilience of Agni Tirtha?
Mhm.
Could we break free from the things that weigh us down, like at Rina Mochana Tirtha?
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
Like these stories are a guide, not just for going to sacred places,
Mm-hmm.
but for making those places inside of us.
It's like we were given a map,
Yeah.
not to the Godavari River, but to our own hearts and minds.
And in those places, maybe what we're looking for isn't some kind of prize or reward,
Right.
but qualities that we can grow within ourselves.
That's such a powerful way to end our deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me as we explored the Godavari River's sacred sites.
It's been my pleasure,
It's been a journey with so many insights, so many questions,
for sure.
and a new appreciation for the power of these ancient stories.
Absolutely. And to you, our listener, thank you for coming with us on this journey. We encourage you to explore more,
Yes.
to dive into the Brahma Purana and other texts that speak to you,
Mm-hmm.
and to find those sacred places, not just along a river,
Right.
but deep inside yourself.
Well said. It's been a truly enriching experience. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries all around us.